right, we're back. It is a post-Thanksgiving edition of the Miami Marlins Hot Stove Show, Thursday, December 5th. Stephen, what's going on? How was your Thanksgiving?
It was fantastic, Kyle. Great always to go home. I know you were in New York. I was in Jersey. We got a little unfamiliar weather up there. It was nice. It feels like the holidays when it's cold. I also got the question a million times because I did get married in the off season. I'll probably mention that another 100 times. The family, the friends. How does it feel to be married? Dude, it's when you're living with your girl before, not a lot changes except this bad boy right here. Made in Argentina, by the way. Handmade in Argentina. But all in all, football, food, chilling. It's honestly, it's close. It's starting to get to the best holiday of the year. How about yourself?
So my Thanksgiving was good. I do have a follow-up, though. Now that you're a married man and you've spent a couple Christmases together, what does the gift exchange look like? Are we saving? Do you guys go all out? Do you have a tree?
For each other?
Yeah.
So we do two gifts that like we both want from a materialistic standpoint, and then we have to do one emotional, thoughtful one.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? Well, that means sort of like a letter or something that is, close to her heart or my heart or whatever it may be, like a memento. Right. I mean, something along the lines.
All right. I can get behind that. My Thanksgiving was good. I was down here last Thursday. I flew home on Friday to be with my family. I then witnessed our 21-0 collapse at the Dome on Saturday. Yeah. So my life has been ruined going back to last Saturday. And then I had a travel nightmare from hell beginning on Tuesday. I was supposed to come home on Tuesday. I didn't share this with you to share it with the audience. My flight was delayed out of Syracuse getting into JFK. I'm not going to mention the carrier. But anyway, I was stranded in New York City Tuesday night. The only assistance they would help is the airport is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you want to sleep there, get lost. Had to get my own hotel room. I ended up getting back about 1 o'clock yesterday. So
holy buckets! I did not know that. You were for the meeting for the team's comms meeting. You were at home and you were supposed to be back in Miami. That is interesting.
No. That was the day I was flying out, but things went sideways on Tuesday quickly. I was stranded in New York. I was knocking little kids over in the airport like Home Alone just to get to B55. I'm 20 pounds overweight, and I'm sprinting through the airport, ended up in a puddle of sweat, ended up getting my own hotel room. It is what it is, man. I'm happy to be back, and I don't want to keep tonight's guest waiting much longer, but I'm excited about the show tonight, Stephen.
I absolutely am, too. We continue to get to know the coaching staff and yet another director, which I am absolutely floored to have on the show tonight, Kyle. And I'll let you kind of take it from here. I don't want to completely ruin the surprise if it was a surprise because it was sort of a late edition, but we're really excited to have him on.
Yeah, he is the Miami Marlins Director of Catching, Maxx Garrett. We'll have him on in a moment. I think what's interesting is that there is a drive line connection there as well. So before we get Max on, wanted to remind everybody that FanFest is coming up at Lone Depot Park on Saturday, February 8th. That's actually just a little over 8 weeks away. Very exciting as well because it'll be back on a Saturday. I know last year was on a Friday. Sometimes it can be difficult for folks to kind of get to the ballpark. So FanFest will be back on Saturday, February 8th from 4 to 8 p.m. at Lone Depot Park. Get your autographs. The players will be out there. A lot of really exciting young prospects will be out there as well. So, make sure you come out to Lone Depot Park. Again, FanFest, Saturday, February 8th from 4 to 8 p.m. Save the date. Go to marlins.com/fanfest, and you can redeem your free ticket there. Joining us now on the Marlins Hot Stove Show tonight, it is Maxx Garrett. There you see him. He's the Miami Marlins Director of Catching. He was hired late last spring, and not even 12 months of the job. He did so darn well. He's got himself a promotion to Director of Catching. Max, thank you so much for joining us on the Hot Stove Show tonight. I know you're out in Seattle, Washington. I know it's early because we're recording this early Thursday morning, man, but thanks for waking up for us and making some time for us.
Kyle, Stephen, great to be here, man. Awesome. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys.
Okay, so I was chatting with Stephen before we actually did the show, and before we really dive into this thing, could you have possibly gotten any further away from home joining the Miami Marlins organization, Max?
I've always talked about going wherever the opportunity is, and the Marlins presented a really good one, and so I'm really excited to be a fish.
Can you take us through your journey a little bit, Max? We've done this with our previous guests as well. I think it's very intriguing to me that you are another guy that, maybe you never made it to the major leagues, but now you're so sought after in your ability to work with some of these guys. Can you really just kind of give us, the Cliff Notes version of who you are, where you're coming from, and how you've gotten to where you are today?
Yeah. I'll try to run through this. So I played course growing up, junior college, transferred to Gonzaga University where I got my degree. And after that, played some independent ball. And I was so fortunate enough in my college career to be around like just incredible coaches. I got to learn a ton. I knew very early that I wanted to coach and I wanted to help players. I think it's pretty special to be able to help anybody reach their goal, and baseball is kind of an avenue to do that. But yeah, after playing, I was really just looking for a place to get live ABs. So that's how I got connected with Driveline. They were in Washington, and I was like, look, you guys got a lot of pitchers throwing, I can catch, but I was really just looking to somewhere to hit live ABs. And so I started training there when they started the hitting program. And so I got to kind of be a guinea pig through a lot of that stuff as they're testing a lot of things. Got pretty close with some of the staff there, and just kind of worked. Got to a point where I was like, man, I should probably, maybe try to make some money and get a real job. This playing stuff is really fun. I probably could have done it forever, but I knew that I wanted to coach, and I was learning a ton at Driveline, so kind of transitioned into that, and it made sense. And I was there for a handful of years. During my coaching career, I was always giving lessons. I coached at junior college for a couple of years. We had some pretty awesome results, and I knew like this was something I wanted to do. I love testing things and iterating on our processes, and seeing how good we can get guys who want to be good.
Max, thanks again for joining us. I mean, we'll talk about your flow and your hair probably later in this because it's absolutely unbelievable. It gives me like Clay Matthews vibes with the Packers. But Driveline, why do you think so many teams are investing into guys and plucking guys away? What is it about Driveline that separates them from maybe the rest of the pack?
Yeah, I don't think there's many places that give you the access, some of the information that you're going to have in professional baseball. Just speaking more on the data side, but then just a plethora of athletes to testings and work with guys at all levels. So you get to do these things with guys at the highest level. So that's important. You have experience. It's not like, we're bringing a guy in here who hasn't been with that many athletes. Like, no, these guys, you take a look at Bill, like he's work with some incredible athletes, right? And so it's, that this guy can create relationships with players. And the other part is they've had access to real objective information that they've been applying to training players and getting them as good as they can be.
Why do you think this specific position fits you so well with working with catching?
Yeah. Cool. Well, I started the program, the catching program at Driveline when I was there, and I think this position is so unique because you get a chance to not only train coaches. It's a little more intimate. We don't have quite as many players, maybe director of pitching or director of hitting has. So still get a lot of time with the players, but the big thing is getting our coaches, everyone on the same page about what matters to us, who we want to be. And the systems and we'll have in place to really develop these guys. And this role I think is so awesome, not only because of the people, our front office that have, kind of built the vision of what the Marlins player development is going to look like. But you get a chance to work with guys from top to bottom and make sure we're all vertically aligned.
Max, going back to your time with Driveline, I think you actually just answered my question. It has been known as a pitching lab. So did you create? I know you were there as the lead hitting trainer and catching trainer. So you created that then? I mean, that was obviously you were there for live ABs, but did you create that portion of the program at Driveline?
Yeah, the catching side. So yeah, the hitting side, I like I said, I got to be a part of. So it's really cool. The guy who started that is with the Red Sox now. But being a part of, what that process looked like, our assessment when I started to what it looked like, over a year ago when I left, it is completely different, right? So the amount of growth and the amount of change on the hitting side is pretty incredible, and able to apply a lot of those things, to the Marlins. But yeah, on the catching side, it was something. We had a bunch of catchers coming in. It's just maybe it's just natural with the catcher position and the type of players that catchers are, but they're
Right.
seem like they're always looking to get better and improve. And so we had a lot of guys coming in, and it was like, all right, we can definitely serve this population. And it was important to me. I was very passionate about helping these catchers, watching them catch pens and be like, all right, we can definitely help these guys. So yeah, it was something we started mainly in the summers and then the pro off seasons, to deliver some good feedback and good training tools to those catchers and get them training plans to reach their goals.
I think Stephen and I are going to have a bazillion questions for you. And I want to jump right
Good.
into the weeds because I hope it ultimately leads here in the next few minutes as to your role and responsibilities now with the Marlins. Again, to me, drive line, it's a pitching lab. It's not making guys robots, but it's all this data, right? How can we make you better? What was it at Driveline that you were doing? What were these numbers? Did you create these numbers? What were you purchasing to help these guys get better? What were these systems that was catching and Driveline? How did those two marry each other?
Yeah. So for one, like again, there's just a lot of opportunity to catch. So first of all, we can have guys catching and we can start to get them feedback on how that's going. So the other big piece of it is, getting them feedback and improving their movement. So like receiving being so important, getting them in positions, and a lot of it's education on how to set up, how to game for getting certain pitches, certain movement. The other piece is, the motion capture lab at Driveline really allowed us to play with some things, and we're able to basically marker guys up so we can see how they're moving, how fast they're moving, the timing of everything. So we did that with some throws, be able to see how the one knee stance is affecting that, and the difference from traditional and one knee. We also just had a lot of smart people there, who were like fanatics and crazy about improving in player development. So that culture is really cool, but was fortunate to be around a couple of guys who helped progress like what actually matters in receiving. So did a big study on what movements are affecting getting strikes, and so really interesting. But yeah, just really special place for me just because I got to learn so much, and we whatever we wanted to study and dig into, we had the opportunity to do so.
Max, I have so many questions as well. We were thinking about keeping you 15. We might keep you 50. Totally
Cool.
kidding. But the catching position has changed so much.
A good time, man.
The catching game has changed so much. We talk about stealing strikes, and you had just mentioned catching on one knee. Like, before I get into that, what are the core values that you plan on bringing to this position within the Miami Marlins? Just give us some. Like for pitching, it's first pitch strike. What are some of those things from a value standpoint for you at the catching position?
Well, Stephen, I think first off we start with like who we want to be, and like the catching position is just unique. You're a leader on the field. You're only guy maybe staying in foul territory, but everyone's looking at you, right? And you have a relationship with the pitcher. It really matters. There's trust there. There's a game plan there. You're almost like another coach on the field. And so who we want to be, I think the servant leadership is just really important to me. That our guys embody that, and not only that, but also kind of being killers. Like I want our guys just like to have an edge about the way they're playing and show our team the type of baseball we want to be on the field, if that makes sense. So I think it starts with who we want to be. Second, as far as the skills go, we want to give everything a chance. Like when I say that, I mean receiving wise, keeping strikes and then presenting balls in a way where maybe we get some extra strikes. Of course, we want to throw rockets that are accurate, and it's a big thing with Steele being more present in the game. Some of the rule changes, so it's very important that we handle that piece, and then the relationships with the pitchers just can't be overstated. Those guys are controlling the game, and it's just really important to us that there's a lot of trust there, and we're doing everything we can to help them be their best version of themselves.
Max, I think we lost Stephen for a moment. I saw a big green screen pop up, so I'll let him get situated and I'll let him come back in. But I'll follow up on a couple of those. First, you say you want killers. The first two guys I think about are the Contreras brothers. Are they the model for killers and the ability to stick up for your teammates, man? And it's hot, it's July, and if you give me attitude, it's go time. Those two guys stick out to me.
Yeah, that's a great examples, and you can see it, right? And it's not like they're yelling at anybody or they're in anybody's face or anything, but it's definitely like a presence, and like that's something that I think is important, that our catchers have a presence back there.
Okay, the other one, and Stephen asked you about kind of like almost like a one knee type thing. In your opinion, what is the best way to catch? Is it on a knee or is it upright?
Yeah, I think the cool part is we can rely on some of the data to help us with this, because it gets a little player specific, and guys are a little different with how they're built, and kind of their capabilities, their mobility. So I think generally speaking, I think most guys are better from the one knee, just because we really don't lose much on the throwing side. It's a much quicker descent or exchange down into a blocking stance, and the receiving, they have more leverage definitely with pitches down, a little bit with side to side too, with good positioning. So generally speaking, I think the one knee really, that's why you see most guys doing it. But the cool part is, like, we have information to help guys figure out what works best for them. And it's important to me that we spend time exploring some different options for guys to figure out what works best.
It's interesting, Max, because the catching position has changed, and I obviously think it's going to continue to change with, the ABS system. And I don't know if it'll fully ever get implemented in Major League Baseball. I hope not, because I think it takes the art of catching away, because I love stealing a strike late in the game. I think that's part of the game. That's part of America's pastime. But, the catching position and where we are today, what do teams value? Do they no longer, to me, like a really good defensive catcher that can also hit has become a unicorn. Is the value with catching today defensively in whatever you get from an offensive standpoint is a bonus?
I like to think that catchers can hit, and then we can develop that. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is you hit, and that's with every position player. But on the defensive side, I think that the intangibles, like being able to call a good game and work with your pitchers and get the most from them, I think, of course, is important. It's much harder to measure. But as far as the measurables go, like the receiving piece, like we know, is just such a big impact on the game. And catchers today, you pretty much have to, we saw early on as we got more data and we started to get data, and pitch FX came a thing, and that there was like a big gap between the best catchers and the worst catchers receiving, and the best catchers were adding a lot of run value, helping create wins. And now that gap is considerably closed, because we're measuring this, and teams are like, this matters. And so now you like to be good, you have to be great, right? And to really separate yourself, you have to be really good. So now there's sort of a barrier of entry, like there was with throwing. Like you don't really see guys with bad arms like catching much, because like you just can't have guys running all the time. So it's almost like a barrier of entry, like there was with throwing. Now on the receiving side, blocking as well. But you see, like the skill, like you with catching, you got to do everything great. Like there's really nowhere to hide, and it's just because you're in it every pitch.
Stephen, are you okay?
I'm okay. I apologize. My computer just completely malfunctioned. for the first time ever. Good
That's
time.
okay. Just so you know, I asked Max about, is it better to be on one knee or not? Asked him about, some of the killer mentality, some of those guys in the game. And then you just topped in there with my last question. So,
I'm ready.
We're
I'm
back,
ready.
man. This
I'm
is,
always
this
ready.
is part of the program. Stuff happens. It's technology. We're good.
Yeah. I know. Just a little frustrating. All right, Max, back to business. I see guys, and you were always taught like this in Little League when you were a catcher to like show a target. And I notice, especially this year, that guys aren't like doing that anymore. Catchers aren't doing that. They're starting their glove on the ground, basically. Why is that? And am I crazy? Did I actually see that, or I just completely just make that up?
No, first off, Stephen, you're embodying what we want to embody, man. This adaptability, like we want our guys to be able to adapt. So I think
God.
He's a little frazzled, though. We don't need a guy frazzled behind the plate. Settle in, brother. I got it. We're two producer. We were good, Steven. It's all right.
I was preparing for a lineup, and then there was a late change, and now Otani's leading off, and I'm a little bit frazzled. Yes.
Hey, we got a game plan for that. All right.
Oh God. Go ahead.
What was your question though, there, Steven?
My question was
on the ground. Yeah, you're not crazy.
Yeah.
Okay.
No. Yeah, definitely. And you're seeing it. It's very common, and it's because there's a lot of value to be had at the bottom of the strike zone, and it's really tough to get that if you're starting with your glove above that. Like you pretty much have to be moving up into the catch of the pitch, the receipt of the pitch, to move that pitch upwards to give it good presentation. If we're moving down into it, we're really going to struggle to keep those strikes and really not going to gain any. So I think catchers are really just gaming for that part of the zone because there's a lot of value there to add.
Now, the other thing too is I've noticed an uptick in backswings hitting the catcher. We see Marcelo Ozuna do it a couple of times. We've actually had our own Jesus Sanchez do it a couple of times as well. Is that a matter of
game? Yeah.
I'm sorry?
A couple times a game. Yeah.
Is that a matter of the catcher getting too far up? Is that a matter of how guys are swinging? Is it just contextual to each situation? But I guess I just want to get your take on that.
Yeah, and it's a real thing. And I think with catchers, again, like we're trying to dominate the low part of the zone and gaming for that a little bit. So we want to be as close as we can just because pitch is on a descent. So we're trying to get that as high up as we can. So you definitely see good teams and teams that care about catching are trying to keep their guys close to get that ball before it gets too low. So that's kind of the nature of being tight in there, backswings. And I think that probably the teams that care about the most are maybe leading the league in catcher interferences, because there is value in gaining strikes down there.
I'm all over the place, but I've got a zillion questions I'd like to ask. If I was a young catcher, say I was a Division I catcher, got drafted, but there's a lot of work that I needed to do, Max, and you and I sat down. Who's a video of a guy you'd pull up and say, this is who I want you to emulate? Who's that guy you'd pull up?
Yeah, as far as just like generally everything, I think Patrick Bailey is pretty incredible.
Steals a ton of strikes.
Yeah, steals a good amount of strikes. And throws really well. I think JT is just like always been kind of the model, and I think something that teams kind of look for a guy that's really athletic. And when he was with the Marlins, he was the fastest catcher in the league. And I think a lot of teams and we have some very, very good athletes. I mean, Nick is an incredible athlete, able to get in lots of positions. So I think that those guys are really good tools to show, but I know Patrick does an incredible job kind of all over.
Okay. My next one for you, have you celebrated the birthday recently, or are you still 34 years old? Still
34. Yeah.
Okay. When is your birthday?
April.
And let us be the first to wish you a very happy birthday, just well in advance so we don't miss it. Hey, at 34 years old, this is a two-part question. What do you think it was about your personality and your ability to do this job at 34 years old that the Miami Marlins trusted you? And on the flip side of that, why do these big leaguers making millions of dollars, what are you doing to trust a 34-year-old? Because a lot of these guys are sent like, you've never been there. You don't know what it's like, but you do know what it's like. And people are trusting you, Max. Why are they trusting you? Where's the trust coming from? What do you do?
I think that it starts with just the truth and the honesty like that we have with our guys. And, of course, building relationships is really important, but I've never really had any issues with players when you're presenting them like real information. It's not really my opinion. I have some thoughts on how we can do this better or the plan in place for us getting there. But when you sit down with a player and you show him some objective information and this is exactly how we're going to improve it. And the cool thing about it is we're going to track it. And if it doesn't improve, we're going to change the plan. And if it does improve, it gets a lot better, then we can double down on it. But players are really receptive when they know that you have their best interest in mind. And I just really lean on that because my goal is the same for them as they have for themselves. And sometimes, I feel like I'm the one being like, hey, I got to have a sense of urgency with this. Like, and I care so much about this. And they can feel that. And players know the people in it to help them. So I think that's the biggest thing. And it starts with, again, a really good information that is not just my opinion. It's backed. And we're here to do whatever we need to do to get you where you want to be.
So, Max, you obviously were here for last season, and I know you're working now with every level. But just curious, there was some good, there was some bad. I know the Marlins were 23rd in opposing stolen bases. They also had someone in Nick Fortes that was close to leading the league in blocks or blocks above, whatever it may be. What were some of your takeaways? What are some of the things that the Marlins you feel like need to get better at? What are some of the improvements that you're pinpointing this offseason going into 2025?
Yeah, I think on the receiving side is probably the biggest thing that I think we can take a big step forward in. And it's really just giving our pitchers, more opportunity for success. Giving pitchers a chance to be called a strike and gaining some more. Nick, like I said, incredible athlete, blocks and like takes the position, like thinks about exactly how you should, and has that mentality. I think that we can even build on, and he does such a good job blocking. He's so athletic and get lots of positions. I think we can definitely help on some of the positions to start gaining and getting more strikes. But I think as a group and what the Marlins want to do from top to bottom, I think big thing will be gaining more strikes.
I know you're not the only one working with him, Max, but when I think about Nick Fortes, I remember Stephen and I sitting down with him last February, and last offseason, there was a big emphasis on his offense because he wanted to help more. And actually, towards the back end of last year in the second half, he was a much, much better offensive catcher. But what is your message to a guy that feels the burden that he's not holding up his end of things offensively, but there's such an importance and in value on his defense? Like, he wants to be better offensively, but you can't sacrifice the defensive side of it because it's so important. Like what, and I know you're not the one working with him every day, but what is the message to a guy like that when he's going through that?
Yeah, I think you're right. The position is unique to where, like, you still have to go out and do your job defensively, and it's so impactful, right? You're there every pitch. So knowing that you can add value to your team and there's another guy on the mound counting on you to help and be a part of that. I think that like that's the message. Like, hey, like you have a chance. Like I know like things aren't going your way at the plate, but we just can't lose confidence. We can't stop having the presence behind the plate. You're still a leader on the field, and it's extremely difficult, right? To be struggling and feeling like everyone else is valued off what they're doing on the hitting side, and I'm not doing what I want to be doing. So it's a very tough position to be in to go out and lead when you're not performing the way you want to be. But we know that we can still add value behind the plate, and we can lead our team. We can have the presence back there. We can work with our pitchers, and we can have a big impact on this game with what we're doing defensively. And you almost present it as a challenge, and that's what these guys like, and they respond to it. That hey, this is what the team's asking me. Maybe things aren't going my way. I'm not getting pitches or things aren't falling, but I can still be the guy behind the plate to help my team win every night.
Kyle, I got one more baseball question and then the floor is yours, brother. But this
Yeah,
could
I've got a
be
bunch more.
this could be another. I don't want to say there's no such thing as a stupid question, because this might be one. But when you're teaching guys how to catch, you're not obviously teaching these guys when they have their glove up. It's not like the 1940s where you have your right hand or your throwing hand behind the catcher. I see some guys on the side, some guys from behind. Is there a reasoning to that? Is there any preference that you have just for the release of the ball? Go ahead.
Yeah. Have you seen like the old like 90s clips of game highlights and catching?
I gotta be honest. When I was preparing for this interview, I was like, I'm not just gonna ask this guy what he thinks of guy. I was gonna get in the nuts and bolts of this thing. I was gonna read up on some things, and there were certain debates on where catchers' hands are and one advantage on one knee. I tried my best, man.
No, yeah. I was just wondering if you've seen, because it's so funny how like catching, it just looks completely different than it did back then, right? And these guys are like making everything look so much better, and the fact that and I know the zones were a little bit different as well, and umpires get so much feedback now as well on how they're doing, and so they're incredible. Some of the umpires, and how hard that is to call ball and strike, and we make our catchers do it with each other and try to steal strikes. So it's really interesting, but the position has changed a lot, and as far as the throwing hand goes, like there's some places where like sometimes having it behind your back can hurt kind of your leverage and how you're moving to get to certain pitches.
Sure.
So I think comfortability back there to give guys confidence in how they're moving is important. Of course, we don't want them to get hit and lose any games, because we need to be on the field. But yeah, I think the comfortability is big. Like we can protect the thumb too by wrapping it in the hand. But yeah, as far as like trying to keep it behind the glove all the time, you're just going to move the glove to catch it, right? So
sure.
A lot of time it's just tucked in, kind of right in front of them, kind of in the crease of their hip. Hopefully protected a little bit.
Okay, Max, I'm trying to listen to what you're saying, and everything you say, I've got a zillion different questions that are coming to mind. Let's start here. You mentioned the umpires.
Yeah.
At some point this spring, will you get all the catchers that are in Jupiter in a room together? Is there ever a session on how to, I guess, treat the umpires and how to work them a little bit and how to have a relationship with them that ultimately benefits you guys?
Yeah. We were talking about last year with guys, and especially at our lower levels, just like this relationship matters. You got to be back here with this guy for 2.5, maybe 3 hours. So like it's good that we get to know him. You're gonna have him over again, right? And so it's good to know their name and how they set up, and it's good to communicate with them, right? Like am I giving you a good view on that? Like can you see that all right? Or like, hey, I think might need to take another look at that. Like it'd be good if you're thinking it's a strike, right? And it's also be honest with him. Like he'll ask you questions too, and he's like, do you have one in there? And it's like, it's maybe a little bit off, So I think that, starting with the education, just like this matters. And we're going to have these guys all year. You're going to have them next year. And so we want to create a relationship with them. And I think it's kind of just the good human and the leader is as far as like, you have someone right next to you for that long. Like we probably should have a few conversations.
Okay, there's been an infiltration here of folks from Driveline. I don't think Bill and Daniel overlap. Did you work with both of them?
Yes. Yeah. And Brandon. So yeah, all three of them.
And Brandon. Okay, so that's 4 of you, or at least 3 others that you knew. But during your time there, I think it's very interesting coming from Driveline in that it is. Is it fair to say that it's an analytical based establishment? Because the reason I ask that is there's so much information when you're working with catchers. At what point is the information too much and it's overbearing because they just have to go out there at some point and play the game?
Yeah, great question. It's for sure data driven, and I think being able to speak data is really important in today's age with just how much information we have. But it definitely can't paralyze you, right? And there's information, and I think a big part of the coach's job is kind of filtering that and what needs to be gone over what needs to be shown. But I also really believe in educating our players so they're comfortable with it, right? And at first it can feel like, oh, this is a lot. I got to think about a lot, but it's like, yeah, this is catching, and this is your profession. You're a professional, so we're gonna understand these things, and we'll get to a point to where like it doesn't affect you, doesn't consume you. It's something you understand easily. You can see it, you can read it easily. You can grab the things that matter most to you. And a big part of my job is helping our coaches understand it so they can filter that down to what's needed for the players, and we can gradually build on these as they progress through their careers.
Max, did you worked with all levels last year, or where were you specifically at the big league level?
Yeah, mostly at the lower levels. Yeah, at
Okay.
the complex and the DR. Did go to Pensacola, but yeah, mostly lower levels.
Would love to ask you about Joe Mack, if you had worked with him at all, and just his strides this season, and what you're kind of seeing from a young Joe Mack.
Yeah, young Joe Mack. For one, an incredible athlete, great kid, and it's really exciting the things he can do on the field. You got to see a lot of it last year. Put together a pretty good year, and of course, a lot of people other see how good of a thrower he is with his award this year. So it's really exciting to have a guy like that in the org, and some of the things he can do. And the best thing is Joe's hungry, and he's ready to put in the work, and he's been a sponge, trying to learn as much as he can and build on, creating relationships with pitchers and really servicing all of those guys.
I do think it's appropriate now, about 35 minutes into our conversation, Max, to ask you what your roles and responsibilities are as the director of catching for the Miami Marlins. Like, what does 2025 and beyond look like for you, and what will you be doing on a daily basis?
Yeah, I think setting the culture is number one, and then getting the right things for feedback for our players. So who we want to be, and then we're getting the right feedback to our players, so they have everything they need. And that's going through our coaches. So our coaches are really in tune with the reports, and it's back and forth with them on how we can improve things and iterate on these. But we get our players really good information. So it's a lot of times teams will have a month or 6 weeks or midway, like, let's go over everything, and we can just turn that feedback loop around much tighter. So getting them good information, good feedback on how they're doing and what we need to improve, and then the player plans and how we're going to do that. So all that is a system in place, and me training the coaches to help deliver some of these things to the players, and making sure everyone's on the same page.
Okay, now let me ask you this then, because you've talked about culture and who we want to be. I think if you're the director of pitching, and we've spoken to him, you can't really mold pitchers to somebody they're not. Some are throwing lefty, some are throwing righty. They have different mechanics. At some point, mechanically, you all want to be at the same spot. Now, would it be fair to say that the catching position is one you can actually mold into a player that you want to see and what they're looking like behind the plate? A lot of positions, especially in baseball, I feel like you can't do that. You have to work within reason, within your parameters and what you have. But to me, the catching position, you can kind of knock somebody on their heels and mold them into what you want that thing to look like.
Yeah, I think there's still a good amount of freedom and personality in the way guys catch. I think it's definitely more so like you're saying, for the catching position, we can definitely do like what we want it to look like, right? Rather than others, especially like the throwing motion being so unique to the way guys move. But I like we were talking about before, with setups, or a lot of times we're spending a lot of time exploring some different setups and some different positions to help them get into a spot where they feel really comfortable and our results are good. So I think that the way I like to work with guys and our coaches will be trained on is just like putting guys in environments where they get to figure out kind of what works best for them. And then we can have the feedback there for them to say this is working or we need to change it.
Stephen, do you have some rapid fire type stuff?
Non-baseball.
Okay. I need to stick on baseball for a moment. And let me ask you a totally ridiculous question, Max, that has been ridiculous in the past, but I don't see a reason why it can't happen moving forward. Do you think the way the game is trending, like in the next 5 to 10 years, we'll see a big league catcher that's left-handed?
I was going to ask you, are we getting this left-handed catcher?
Yeah, we are. Because
Yeah.
I don't know why we don't have one. Can you give me a reason why I mean, I guess in theory, because just if you're in Little League and you're lefty, like you're not going back there. But as the game changes, like I'm convinced sooner rather than later, we're going to see a big league catcher that's left-handed that's actually going to bring something to the table that nobody else can, and it's going to like revolutionize the game. Is that ridiculous?
I wouldn't say ridiculous. I think it's possible for sure. Maybe we have a platoon lefty catcher for a lefty thrower, I should say, for maybe a left-handed pitcher, a starter, and to help with because a lot of times guys have more trouble, catching on the glove side,
right?
And a lot of right-handed hitters like the throwing lane blocked, and so there's some reasoning I think why you see mostly right-handed, but I don't think that it's impossible to have a lefty catcher. I think it'd be really fun to train the first one, and we definitely kicked it around with a few guys. Like, hey, maybe we're not playing much. Like, we'll learn how to catch. You did a little bit of catching when you're younger, and we'll be a first-hand left-handed catcher. At least nothing else. Everyone will know you on Instagram or TikTok.
Yeah, because I'm just convinced that analytically at some point we're going to get to a place where yourself and others in that space are going to revolutionize it to like, oh no, if we do have one of these and nobody else has that, we are actually going to benefit. And it might sound crazy, but we have the data and the data points and all of this information now to back that stuff up. So I think it's crazy now, but I also thought an automatic ball and strike system was ridiculous, and that's obviously coming much sooner rather than later. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we need a trailblazer.
Yeah. Well, don't look at these two guys in front of you. They're certainly not Stephen or I. That's for sure. We'd like to talk about them. We can't help it all. I don't know. I could keep doing this for hours, Stephen.
I know.
If you want to start kind of wrapping it up with some of the fun,
I just feel he's been here for 45 minutes. I mean, the guy has a life.
Well.
This is what I do, man. Steve, that's what I like doing, right? We're talking baseball, especially we're talking catching.
So what do you like to talk about when it comes to catching then, Max? What have we not asked you that you love talking about when it comes to catching a baseball? I'm serious.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that there's a handful of things we could get into. If it's mechanically related, if it's where the game is going. I know you guys have kind of mentioned this a few times.
Where is it going?
Yeah.
Fire away.
I think that it's tough to, when you look at the ABS and you look at kind of like the power that gives MLB and controlling the game. I think that it's hard not to look at that and be like, all right, they're not going to want to do that. Like, of course they're going to want to be able to do that. They have control of the zone every pitch. And I think that makes a lot of sense when you're trying to progress the game, but we just definitely can't get rid of a skill. Right. You mentioned it, Kyle, like receiving is definitely a skill. Good evidence of that. And we don't want to take away skill from the game. I think the challenge system players and fans have liked. So if I had to guess, that probably stays around for a few years just because of how it's gone. But yeah, we've already talked about how we would adapt if we do go full ABS, and I think the position changes significantly. It's going to be probably a premier power position. You're going to have guys back there that will absolutely need to throw, and that'll really only be the only thing that matters.
That's the only value. If it goes full ABS,
sure.
You need to have somebody to make sure that the ball's not going to go to the backstop and that has an absolute howitzer, because other than that, stealing a strike no longer matters. If you can catch it and throw it, you have a chance to make a lot of money.
Yeah, and you'll probably see guys setting up back there just a game to throw. Like it'll just be set up to throw. Probably pick everything as far as blocks go, and your setups will look completely different because it just doesn't matter how they catch it.
Do you like the pitch com?
Oh,
yeah,
it's
I love it. It's just so much quicker and can speed things up. And I'm a big fan of self-programming those things, so it can be your voice on there saying what you want to say.
Is there any place in the game anymore for using traditional hand signals? It's actually kind of crazy because I don't know how to feel about it, because I do feel like pitchers and catchers to an extent have been neutered, because with the PitchCom device, when that thing is not working, it almost looks to me like they have no idea what to do. Let's bring out the ball boy and get this sorted out, because if I put one down, you apparently aren't going to know that's a fastball.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's some really good sign systems that involve like a single sign and a pitcher sign back. And that can be maybe a little more thinking than coaches want to give to pitchers. But I think it's a really good system and basically incredibly tough to change and figure out. So
I got to stop, Stephen. Please go ahead. You got to stop me, because we could keep doing this. I'm just it's really
what do people want to hear? You know, we got to have more views than Ignafo. Otherwise, I'm going to hear it from him. You know,
Ignafo.
Really? So all your guys are going to be watching this.
We had him on the pod. Last season.
Last season.
Good job by him.
Wait, I got another one, Stephen.
I do too. I had two.
Go right ahead.
What's your stance on back picking?
My stance on it.
Normally
I'm in a one knee down position, throwing as hard as I can to a spot. That's my position.
Okay. It was funny. You took it that way. I took it as, do you feel like it still serves as anything to the game, back picking and trying to keep guys on and keep them honest? Is that part of the game still exist?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that with the steal and how teams are gaming to get extra bases that way, that not only the pickoff, it's called picks, timing picks, glove job picks, signed in picks, but the back pick, it's just like when guys are looking for extra bases, it's going to be really important to manage the run game. That the back pick is part of that.
And it doesn't count as a disengagement, which is very important. That's why we saw it so much, no disengagement.
Who is the guy that you would not want to catch at the major league level that has just sick stuff? I know all of them can make the ball move crazy vertically, horizontally. I just went horizontally this way. I know it's this way. Good thing this is on audio too. What pitcher, what arm would you not want to catch just because his stuff is just disgusting?
Man, we have a good amount of these guys.
I know. Like Bender, I know.
It's just like our staff, like they're just nasty. And the cool thing is, like, we get to catch all those guys. So like when you're talking about who do you not want to catch because they're nasty, like it's like our guys, and like it's like the coolest thing that we have the opportunity to catch it. But Sandy and Lazar, I mean, like even Braxton, like just making it move like different ways all the time. And that's where catching is really difficult, especially like as you get to understand a guy, and the big leaguers are nice because they're usually really consistent with their movement. So like you understand where that's gonna end up. But if it's like a cutter or a gyro that is sometimes straight, is sometimes backing up and sometimes cutting and sometimes sliding, like it can be really tough. And that's where not to get into training, but like that's where we spend a lot of time is like can our guys catch when the environment's really difficult? And our guys take a lot of pride in how they go about training.
How many bullpens will we see you on a knee catching in spring? Do you still get back there a little bit?
Maybe just to let them know that we have coaches back here, because it matters and we care. And if I had it my way, we'd be grading every single pin, and I'd see every one of them, whether on video or not. But you'll see me out there for a ton of pens. I think that is just an incredible time to get good work in. I don't know how many I'll be catching, but maybe we'll have to let them know.
I can't believe I'm going to bring this name up for the second time in as many weeks. Did you ever catch at Driveline a bullpen of Carter Capses? I can't believe I haven't said this name in a decade, and I brought it up twice.
Back to back.
I think there was Carter Capps when he came in. I think there was I think I was asked like you might have to catch him. He was like coming in the morning. We didn't have any catchers there at the time, so like it was like, hey, you might have to catch this guy. And it came up, and we had higher profile guys come in. But I don't think I ever did catch Carter. Great dude though.
Fascinating. Again, he took MLB by storm. Was hopping off the mound. They didn't know what the heck to do with him. They just told me he had to stop, and he couldn't stop. And anyway, I heard he was
remember
out.
His agent called. It was pretty funny. He was like, "Yeah, I got this guy is interested in coming, but he's got this thing. MLB basically told him he can't throw like this anymore." And he's like kind of hiding his name. And I was like, "Oh yeah, Carter Capps." He's like, "Ah, yeah."
Unbelievable.
Yeah, who else would it be?
Max, this is an old broadcast trick. Hey, we need 20 minutes of your time tomorrow, and we're 15 minutes in. Steven, I really do need to stop. Please do the non-baseball stuff.
Yeah, I was going to ask about his hair. It's okay.
Oh, yeah, please. I'm done, though.
No, just the product and how long it took and just, what your plan is for the future. I hope you keep it for, a very long time.
Yeah, plan for the future. Not as dialed on the future hair plans I am on like our individual catcher plans.
Yeah,
That's a shame.
Good.
But maybe some coconut oil and definitely need a cut. Make sure we're coming into spring training looking tight.
Now, do you ever man bun it, or is it just you just let it flow? And is there a look that you're going for when you started growing it out? Because that's sometimes where it starts. Like, oh wow, Clay Matthews. I'm trying to think who else has that hair at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I probably had every hairstyle you can come up with. I probably had it in my day. I think cornrows during junior college was probably not my best decision.
You had cornrows.
Yeah, because it was off my ears. It was clean. So it's. But I've had a high and tight. Like I rocked that in college as well. So there's kind of covering a lot of different fields here. But yeah, I think no certain look, just letting it go. And there's definitely a transition period for people who go through that where it doesn't look good for a while. And it might not now, but it just kind of how it is.
God
so
bless
did
you
look like Mike Norvell? Have you seen that picture of Mike Norvell that gets circulated?
No.
With the cornrows?
No.
That's what I envision you looking like. If you want to do a quick Google search, it is
Mike Norvell.
This
is the capability that we have, Kyle. Hold on. Hopefully my computer doesn't crash.
Yeah. Now does that hairdo there, Max? Does that require, a high line conditioner, or is there no conditioner involved there?
No, yeah, no conditioner.
No conditioner, just shampoo. But you can't go to the grocery store and grab it off the shelf, or do you get wild like that? Or is this a very fine product to keep that hair looking like that?
Yeah, whatever the wife's got, it's just kind of.
Oh, you're married. How long you been married for?
I got married this year. So yeah, it's only been about 6 months.
Well, congratulations.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Yeah, congratulations to you too, Steven.
Thank you, man. Appreciate
it. You got any animals?
Yeah.
Got any pets out there in Seattle?
Yeah, I got a couple dogs. Yeah.
What are their names?
So one of them's Hank, Hammer and Hank. The other one is a rescue. Her name was Amaryllis when we got her, so we just call her Amo or Rillo. So,
are you finding that picture, Steven?
Yeah, I'm trying to, but I can't convert it. So
it's all right. Don't worry about it.
Wait, hold on. I think I may have figured it out.
I do want to make sure if we can get that uploaded as just like that full screen overlay, Steven, to throw it up there for Max and tell us if we're close or not.
Yeah, give me one second.
Just in some capacity. Oh, well, how long have you and your wife been together, Max?
Man, 8 years.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Now she'll come south. She'll come this way.
She will be down there at least part-time.
Wow. Well, that's great. Well, we're really looking forward to meeting you, man. I can't wait to meet you. Do you golf? How's your golf game?
It's not great, but I really, really enjoy it. Yeah.
Righty or lefty? I assume you swing righty.
Yeah, righty. Yeah.
All right. How's that going?
Not working, Steven? Kyle.
It's
not working. Yeah, just get him out of here before I get.
No. Hold on. I'm just going to bring up a picture on my phone and hold it up to the screen. Yeah, I think this is the beauty of doing a show like this, that I don't really care how buttoned up this is or isn't. I just want to make sure that Max sees this. Here it is.
You guys talking catching. That's all.
Yeah, just a few guys talking catch it. Okay, let me see if I can show this. This was Mike Norvell.
Oh man.
How did?
Oh, wait, Kyle, I think I got it. I think I got that same one.
Yeah.
Hold on.
So did you look similar to that, Max? There we go. There you go.
Yeah. Is it
like that?
Not far off from that. Yeah.
Yikes. Unbelievable. Awesome.
Yeah. It really unbelievable, actually. Yeah.
Are we done now, Stephen? Did you have any more?
Yeah, let this man go, please.
Max,
please.
I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. I could talk catching with you for hours, but you do not want to continue talking about it with us because God only knows where it's going to go, brother.
Yeah. I think I look forward to talking to you guys again and definitely seeing what the golf game looks like out there.
Yeah, Abaco is a great place. I hope you played last summer a little bit. But, hey, enjoy the winter meetings. I know it's going to be an awesome time for the organization and a lot of you guys that get together. And, again, seriously, Stephen and I can't wait to see you down there in Jupiter in a couple of months.
Appreciate you guys. Yeah, really excited for winter meetings on that, actually. Just like getting the whole new group together would be really incredible. But thanks for having me. It's been awesome talking with you guys.
Thank you, Max.
Maxx Garrett, the Director of Catching for the Miami Marlins in 2025. That was an awesome conversation, and we'll talk more about it in just a moment. But don't forget, you can become a Marlins member, and make sure you get yourself a membership. Just go to marlins.com/member. Go to marlins.com/tickets. You can also get your way to becoming a Marlins member through a multitude of different ways on marlins.com. But make sure you come out and join us in 2025. And again, that'll start with FanFest, and man, it's going to be an exciting young season, and there's some really incredible people that are in the organization. So, Stephen, that was awesome.
Wow. That was awesome.
That was really cool. I don't really have much more to say other than that was really neat. I thought it was really cool to have him on and see what this is all about. There's some amazing people that are part of this thing.
Yeah, I actually think this was one of our best interviews. I think that you asked really different questions, and we both kind of got into the weeds about things that different things. I think people will find interesting. The one thing that I've noticed about this coaching staff, I really hope that it works because they're really good guys, and I'm really starting to see that ferment, especially this offseason where Peter has talked about bringing in good people, innovative minds, energetic, different, like as far as the way they think. And we have honestly hit the jackpot these last couple of weeks with these guys on the Hot Stove Show because they are incredible dudes and incredible people. And I am going to cheer for them, just like I would cheer for everyone on this staff and player, but really extra hard for these guys because they're good people and they're fun. And, they're incredibly focused too. I try to talk about his hair. The first thing he talks about is, listen, this is whatever, but everything else on the field is important. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, and we're actually going to talk about the winter meetings, and we're going to hear from Peter Bendix coming up in just a couple of minutes. We just got to bring that back up there, Stephen. But the one thing too that I think to echo your comments a little bit, and again, I think I'm sensitive to it too because I understand from a fan's perspective that it is genuinely all about wins and losses on the field
with
now.
Ryan, there's a lot.
Oh, hello.
Try to add that. My bad, Kyle.
No, all good. I think what's really interesting though is like there are so many good people that are being hired that are ultimately going to lend a hand to these young guys that is only going to make them better moving forward. And I know it might not come to fruition immediately, but they have totally sold me on all of these new directors and their vision and genuinely what they're going to bring to the organization. So I just think that's what excites me. And I think you can sense the excitement from a lot of these people as well.
Couldn't agree anymore. And again, I apologize for dropping that up there because when I got booted from my
that's right, it disappeared.
Entire thing, it disappeared. So I want to make sure that we were covered. And really good interview, and I'm excited here. Now we can talk a little Peter Bendix and what he said before his winter meetings.
All right, so let's do that. Let's bring this up here. So we've got 4 clips for you here. Peter Bendix held some availability earlier this morning with some of the Marlins media. Talked about, I would say, a variety of different things, including intentions and this and that. One of the things that he did bring up, and again, I want to make sure we get to all of this, and we just talked about a lot of the good people, Stephen, that have been hired. But there's also an announcement today. Ryan Plunkett, that is the individual's name. He is now the vice president of baseball solutions. So let's actually hear from Peter on the hire and what Ryan Plunkett will bring to the table this year.
Yeah, with Ryan, there's a lot to like. He's young, but he is incredibly sharp. He's very smart, very analytical. He's got great leadership skills. He really fits everything that we're looking for in a VP within the R&D space. His role, that department, baseball solutions, it's within the R&D umbrella, but it's kind of a new concept here with the Marlins. It's really the space that's going to connect R&D with the rest of the organization. It's something that I find incredibly important. It's a space that I spent a lot of time in my past as well. And I think the implementation of all of the data that we're getting is so important. And Ryan is such a great fit for that. He's such a great fit to move us forward in the R&D space, which is incredibly important to me and to our success moving forward. And then the person that he is, the intellectual curiosity that he showed, the leadership traits, even though he's pretty young in his career, and the culture fit that he is, he's going to enhance our culture. He's going to make the people around him better. And I think the sky's the limit for him.
Okay, so that was Peter on Ryan Plunkett, who's the vice president of baseball solutions. I have one quick thought. I guess we can each share a thought on some of these clips, Stephen, because again, we're now over an hour into this thing. I really don't care about the time because I'm genuinely enjoying just doing these shows, and we don't have a time limit, which is really cool. And okay, so my thought there, and my brain is going 1,000 miles an hour. The Marlins aren't going to be in on a guy like Juan Soto, and we're pretty understanding of that. But a lot of this continues to come back to analytics and research and development. The Miami Marlins, and it's something that Peter Bendix was tasked with in Tampa Bay, to beat those teams, you better beat them on the margins.
Correct.
And what that ultimately leads to is spending millions upon millions of dollars on the back end of this thing to hire really, really good people to beat those other teams on the margins. You're not going to be able to beat them with a $700 million player, but we can, with really good people behind the scenes, find a way to beat these teams. How can you gain an advantage over some of these teams with $400 to $500 million payrolls? Because that's really what a lot of this comes down to. A lot of those teams are going to have more talent on the field than you, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can't win. And again, to me, this is right in line with what we've been hearing now for 2 years with Peter.
Correct. He comes from the Phillies as well. And when he said R&D, because myself, I didn't know what that meant. It's research and development. That's what he was talking about under that umbrella. But I completely agree, Kyle. There needs to be a formula to win. And this is a formula to win for Peter Bendix. He did it in Tampa Bay. And this is how they're going to do it. They're going to win, like you said. You hit it on the head. You got to win within the margins. That's why a guy like that we just had, Maxx Garrett, he's trying to win within the margins at the catching position. Bill Hazel, same thing with the pitching. Trying to win within the margins from the bottom to the top. That's how you do it. And I completely agree with the formula. And only time will tell.
Right. And now a big question that a lot of fans are going to have is with the winter meetings coming up next week. And this is not the 3-day period where you have to do all of your business. There's a lot of time left in the offseason. But a big question is, what are the Marlins looking to do this winter? And Peter was asked earlier this morning how many veterans he'll be looking to add this winter to complement a lot of young kids on this team.
We don't have a number. We don't have a specific area that we are only looking at. We're looking at all different ways to make our team better. There's a lot of different ways that we can do that. You mentioned one of them with veteran players. I think that another way that we can make our team better is giving opportunities to some of our young guys and making sure that we have a chance to see them play and see what we have in them. We have a lot of really young, hungry players that we saw really positive things from in the last 2 months of the season. And we need to see what we have with those players because there's a lot of talent on this roster. So there's a lot of ways that we can get better. It's December 5th, so there's still a lot of time left in the offseason, and we're not taking anything off the table.
All right, and this is something that Peter's going to be tasked with, and I think it actually goes back to a little bit of what we were just chatting about. The dilemma that you are in this situation is, could they go spend $50 to $60 million in payroll and find veterans to put on this roster? Sure, but at some point, you have to give every young kid on this opportunity a full-blown chance to see if they're a part of this thing, because again, that's how you're going to ultimately win on those margins. So it doesn't surprise me that Peter said that. I don't personally anticipate they're going to go do a lot of damage on the free agent market. I think it would be similar to last year, because that's the trajectory of this thing. That it's young guys.
I want to jump in, Kyle. I don't want to interrupt you, but I know that. And I want this message to go to the fans as well, because I know that they're definitely, rolling their eyes at this. And I will ask you this question. Would you rather bring in someone, and this is no disrespect to Paul DeJong at all, because he's a great player, he's had a great career, but he's just one of the many shortstop options. And I just plucked his name out of a hat.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Would you rather sign Paul DeJong to X amount, 1 year, whatever it would cost, or would you rather see what they have with Javier Sanoja? And I think that's the question that you need to ask at a young 20 with the position where the Marlins are at. Before we got on here, I just wanted to write out, I don't know what this is going to look like. I don't know if this is the official opening day roster, but when I started to plug and play with these numbers, Connor Norby, 24, Xavier Edwards, 25, Otto Lopez, 26. Let's say De Los Santos makes the team and is playing first base at 21. Kyle Stowers, 26. You notice a trend here? This is under 27 years old in the starting lineup. The Marlins have an opportunity with a young talent, plethora of it in their system. They got to figure out what they have, man. No offense to Paul DeJong. Paul DeJong had a tremendous career. But this isn't the time to bring in Paul DeJong. It's time to figure out what kind of player Javier Sanoja is, what kind of player Victor Mesa Jr. is. That's where the Marlins are at, and that is a great place to be in. I truly believe that the way the organization is going, figure out what you have with talented players. And let me tell you something, Javier Sanoja, what we saw, there's something there. I don't know. Again, this is why you play him for, get him 400 at bats, 162 games, but there's something there. Figure out what's there.
I agree with you, and
I went on a little tangent there.
And this isn't even me pushing back, but the thing you had mentioned was, would you rather? I don't think the Marlins are in a would you rather. No, this is the plan. It's not a would you rather. Now, could they go find a veteran for $10 million a year that might be better than the guy currently at the position? Yes, but you're not going to see that all over the field. Would you rather have Juan Soto and Aaron Judge and Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig out there? Yes, as a matter of fact, I would. But that's it. To me, it's not a would you rather. This is the plan. And are they going to spend some money? Yeah, I bet they'll spend a few bucks here and there. But it's not necessary given what their plan is.
And I also will tell you this, and Tim Anderson was a great human being to us. But if we had to play that over again, would you rather have seen Tim Anderson to start the season, or would you rather have seen Xavier Edwards?
Right. And correct. If Edwards was totally healthy, he wasn't. He missed the first few months.
I think that's the bigger point with a guy like DeJong. It's like, okay, and it's not always going to work like that. Like Javier Sanoja can maybe struggle and it doesn't work out, and maybe Paul DeJong goes and hits 300. That's baseball. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way sports is, especially baseball. But I'm just using that as an example.
Correct.
But I agree, Kyle. I agree. Of course. Would you rather have Aaron Judge, Juan Soto? Of course. It's not a would you rather. You're right on that. But I guess I was trying to give the example of here's the situation that they're in, and it's a good situation to be in. Let's figure out, let's unturn every rock that we have in the organization and see what plays.
100%. And the only other thing I'll say before we play Peter's next clip, it can be hard sometimes. It's just my opinion. When you have a plan, you stick to it, because as soon as you start to deviate and question but we could go do this, as soon as you start to do we could go do this and do this multiple times and take a turn maybe you shouldn't have, it really can have repercussions down the road. So I think the one thing we've talked about, I think Peter is very steadfast in his ways, and I think all of the people underneath him are as well. And I think they're hard-headed in a good way, where we have a plan. We're going to approach this plan and give this plan 100%, and it might be multiple years, but I don't think they're going to deviate from it. I think it's great, and this is how the Miami Marlins need to win, and that's fine. A lot of other teams are in the same boat. Okay, we had Maxx Garrett on, and we mentioned Driveline himself, Daniel Moscos, who's now the pitching coach from the Cubs, Bill Hiesel, and I just forgot Brandon Mann. Brandon Mann was the other. Brandon was with the Marlins last year. Peter Bendix was asked earlier this morning about the amount of people in the organization that were previously at Driveline and what they bring to the organization moving forward.
I think Driveline does a fantastic job with understanding how to get players better. I think the people that we've hired from Driveline are really good at that, really good at connecting with players, really good at getting them better. There's a lot of those programs out there. It's not just Driveline. Driveline does a great job. Tread does a great job. There's plenty of others that I'm not going to name that also do a really good job. I think it really speaks to the environment that players are in right now. There's so many resources available to them to get better. It's imperative that a team keeps up with those resources, with the data, with the technology, with everything that a player expects to have to help him get better, and then also can provide the player with things that maybe he can't find elsewhere. And so being able to pull people from all sorts of different backgrounds, whether it is something like Driveline, or whether it's working with other teams, whether it's minor league experience, major league experience, bringing all of that together in one coaching staff gives really a diverse array of options to get our players better.
Okay, and I don't want to regurgitate everything that we just said. The only thing I'll say to that, Stephen, would be young, innovative, willing to kind of do things and see things differently.
Yep.
Once you hire enough of those type of people and you get those type of people in rooms together and ideas start flowing, I think it ultimately leads to great ideas to make the organization better, and why they're hiring a lot of these guys.
100%. There's not really anything else to say after that.
Okay. All right. So the last thing we will hear from Peter then, and this would kind of wrap up because the winter meetings start next week. A lot of people expect Juan Soto to sign before next week or during the winter meetings. A lot of the big names, a lot of money will be flying around. But Peter was asked earlier this morning what a successful winter meetings would look like to him.
The winter meetings are a fantastic time to get our staff together, to bring everybody into one place, to spend time together, to have conversations. That's especially true now. We have a new manager, a new bench coach, a bunch of new directors, a new vice president, a lot of new faces that haven't necessarily spent a ton of time together yet. And so being able to be in the same room, to have conversations about our team, to have casual conversations, to get to know each other, build those relationships, in addition to all the roster things and player things that everybody sees, that type of thing behind the scenes really helps build the culture that is so important to us.
All right, is that going to stop on its own? It did. We can go back here. So that was I think that's not interesting. I think it's a good way to wrap it up. Because it goes back, Stephen, a lot to what you and I have discussed. And there's so much money being invested behind the scenes, and I am totally sympathetic to it's not what people want to hear. But the Marlins for many, many years were behind. And Marlins principal owner Bruce Sherman has put a lot of money in places that it had never been before. And if they did not spend that type of money where they are now, to me, the organization doesn't have a chance moving forward. But Bruce has put that money forward. Will it immediately pay dividends in 2025? Maybe, maybe not. But without spending the money that's necessary to catch up with the rest of the league, to me, they don't have a chance. But they're going to now because of everything, to what Peter said, behind the scenes. A lot of what's happening behind the scenes now is ultimately going to benefit the Marlins for years here down the road.
And I think there's also something important that we need to highlight too. You know, the Dodgers have this stuff, man. Like the best teams.
Correct.
If you watch the World Series, why did the Dodgers beat the Yankees? And yes, you can tell me Mookie Betts and Ohtani, but why did the Dodgers beat the Yankees? Because they won within the they took advantage of mistakes that the Yankees made because they didn't play clean baseball.
And let me stop you right there, Stephen, because I just want to add to that point a big reason that Clayton McCullough. We talked about that.
I was going to, and Clayton McCullough was a huge part of that, and Shohei Ohtani has talked very highly. Mookie Betts said he was the best coach that he's had. But this isn't just, I don't know how to say, this isn't just like, oh, the Marlins are going to do this because they want to win in the margins and they rather invest into Juan Soto or whatever. No. Mm-hmm. All teams are doing this. Like the Dodgers are doing this. The Red Sox are doing this. Like these big, massive teams, and the Dodgers who just won the World Series are doing this.
Right.
And I think that's important to continue to emphasize that the Marlins are headed in the right direction. They never really invested into these things until Peter Bendix got here. Now you're starting to see that come to life. I'm excited to really see the impact, particularly with the director of catching and the director of pitching and the director of hitting. I know they're all equally important, but we'll see if there's some wholesale sort of changes that we see within each minor league system. If we've seen uptick in singles, in contact, in getting on base, in walks, whatever it may be, I'm excited to see what that result looks like.
You know, they say imitation is the best form of flattery. And I say that because the team that I would like to see the Marlins imitate and replicate would be the Milwaukee Brewers.
Yep.
They have done it. They're on the margins for years, and for a decade plus now, they've given themselves a chance to win a World Series every year, similar to what Peter did in Tampa Bay. At the peak of somebody's value, oftentimes they've been traded because they know they weren't going to be able to retain that player. But the bright minds organizationally made the right moves and the necessary moves to keep them competitive. Go back to last year. Nobody thought with Craig Counsell and David Stearns gone, they were going to be competitive. Now, a lot of that's still there, but Pat Murphy did an amazing job, and the organization was set up in a way where I think the sentiment was, well, they're not going to be good because we don't know a lot of those guys' names. Well, a lot of people are going to say the Marlins aren't going to be good because they don't know a lot of those guys' names. But that is, to me, is like the perfect organization to replicate,
to emulate.
Emulate. Thank you very much. So any final parting thoughts? We have a big return of Love It or Leave It here, but any thoughts going into the winter meetings?
No, just we'll get into it in Love It or Leave It. But in Dallas this year, Peter Bendix and company headed off this weekend. But I do have a Love It or Leave It that I do want to get into that has something to do with the big
return. It's the floor is yours, Stephen.
Yes. Okay. Well, usually I like to have some sort of background music. We're not going to get that this time.
Why not?
Because it only has like royalty free. Maybe I got to figure that out on the next one. Like the background music says dance pop daydreaming. Maybe I got to figure that out next time.
You want a little music though? I can give you a little night driving music or Love It or Leave It. Let me give you a little something here, Stephen.
Let's see. All right.
I like this.
You like this? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Love It or Leave It. The golden at-bat. Now, most probably haven't heard of the proposal for a golden at-bat, but the basic concept is that a team could choose one at-bat in every game to use its best hitter, regardless of where they are in the lineup. So, for example, the New York Yankees had the bases loaded, 2 outs in the bottom of the ninth. They could bring Aaron Judge to the plate even if it wasn't his turn in the order. Love it or leave it?
I'm going to leave it. Felt a little hokey to me. I think the game is in a really good place. Viewership, listenership is up. I think the game is in a great place. I think there's a lot more to come down the road. Personally, though, Stephen, I'm gonna leave it. And you know, another thing that I was thinking about this along these lines with this golden at bat.
Go ahead.
At some point, too, as we get a look at Jake Berger bashing balls out of the ballpark last year, at some point, too, when I think about golden at bat and a manager having to make that decision, what if 2 or 3 times over the first couple of months you remove that same player? What type of repercussions does that have on the clubhouse? What type of repercussions will there be for that individual player that may no longer feel like, well, they don't trust me in these big spots, so why do I even, I think there are repercussions to that. I really, really do. But I'm going to leave it for now. Maybe it comes down the road. Your thoughts?
I like it, but I think they missed out on one thing. I think it needs to be similar to a shootout in hockey. It only can happen in the regular season, and it only can happen in extra innings. They want to speed up these games. That's fine. I love the ghost runner at second base. If you want to do the golden at bat, start with it in the 10th or 11th or 12th inning. I think that's a good spot. You have one chance to do it. I know you said it could affect the clubhouse. It's similar to a pinch hitter, though. I know some people get ticked off, but they understand it if it's a betterment for the team. I get what you're saying. I think that this could work in extra innings in the regular season. That would be my proposal. Your thoughts on that?
I'm just not sold on it yet. I really do think players, these guys, they have so much pride and they want to come through in the big spots. If I was X player walking up to the plate and my manager pulled me back because he's saying emphatically that you're not as good as the guy I'm going to put up there.
What's the difference between that and a pinch hitter?
I guess just a pinch hitter has been a part of the game for so long. The golden at bat, like this golden goose that, nope, you're coming. I understand that there's a great argument to be said, like a pinch hitter is in theory. Now, sometimes there's strategy involved there as well. Yes, there could be an argument made for that. You're 100% correct. I don't know. I'm not
You're
about it.
leaving it.
Maybe. Yeah.
That's why we play the game. You leave it. I like it. Could be better. Okay. Love it or leave it. The draft lottery. Now, I know this isn't new. This is also on Tuesday, by the way, Marlins fans, December 10th, 5:30. It will be on MLB Network and streamed on MLB.com, as we and the Colorado Rockies have the highest chance of getting the number 1 pick at 22.45%. Now, again, the lottery began in 2023. The Pirates won it last year. The Guardians actually picked first for the first time, and their chance to win was at 2% of having the number 1 pick. The A's, the Royals, and the Rockies had better odds, but the Guardians ended up winning that lottery. What do you think, Kyle? Love it or leave it, the draft lottery?
I like it because there are certain things involved there, Stephen, to where you can't just pick first every year. You can no longer tank, say, like the Houston Astros did in the mid-2010s.
Like the A's aren't part of it this year. Correct.
And
the White Sox.
There are repercussions if you are continuously bad. You're not guaranteed the top pick, obviously, every single year. They prevent that. I love the MLB draft lottery. I love that even if you were the worst team in the league last year, you're not guaranteed the number 1 overall pick. I think there's a lot to be said for that number 1 pick this year. There are some incredible players out there. Ethan Holiday being one of them. I think he is just an unbelievable player. If the Marlins get the first pick, I think there's a very, very good chance that you see him, and there he is, the younger brother of Jackson and the son of Matt. I think the Marlins would probably go that route. I think he is game-changing. I think he is organizational altering. But I'm a huge fan. I love the MLB draft lottery, and I hope it's here to stay for a very long time.
Okay. And just for notes here, the last number 1 pick the Marlins had was in 2000, Adrian Gonzalez. And the Marlins had the number 2 pick in 2014, Tyler Kolek, and 1999, Josh Beckett, if you ever heard of him. Okay, love it or leave it, Christmas music before Thanksgiving.
I'm going to leave it, and I just played a little rock music for us here in your final love it or leave it, baby. Totally going to leave it. I think Thanksgiving has its place. I don't want it to be stepped on prior to. I have a very good buddy back home that had his Christmas tree up in October. I think he should be incarcerated. I don't think he should be able to spend Christmas with his family. I think that's criminal. I think that's an awful offense.
Way too early.
Yeah, way too early. And how many times can you watch Frozen with your daughters before the movie gets old? Apparently it hasn't yet. That's what I told him. Absolutely not, though. Totally going to leave it. Thanksgiving has a special place where you can sit down, you can feast, you can eat as much as you want, you can be with your family, you gamble on football. It's an amazing day. Once we get past Thanksgiving, give it its space. We can go full bore into Christmas because I love Christmas as well.
What does Thanksgiving music look like? That's the only thing. I don't know what that is at this point. Like, there's no genre or artist that, I mean, you think Mariah Carey, Biebs, Justin Bieber for Christmas, but, you know, bubbly. But, like, I don't know. There needs to be a little bit more clearness on what music
classical jazz. Like. Do you think classical jazz would be Thanksgiving? I said
it was funny when I was in the kitchen with everyone cooking and helping. I put on YouTube Thanksgiving mix, and it was like a lot of jazz, like a lot of like coffee shop sort of thing. We'll see. All right, I totally agree. You got to leave it. You cannot play. You got to Thanksgiving its own holiday. Respect it. All right, last one. Love it or leave it. Ugly sweaters.
I'm out on ugly sweaters. Personally, I guess if you go to an ugly sweater party, it could be fun, but I think
What do you wear on Christmas Eve to your folks' place or whoever you go to?
The sweatshirt and sweatpants that I have on. Yeah.
Totally on brand.
I mean, if I go to a bunch of friends, I guess, and it's like, hey, we're having an ugly sweater party, you know, bring your own beverage of your choice. Come over. I mean, I'll do it. I don't need one on, you know.
I love a good ugly sweater, man. I got two actually. I got a Minnesota Viking one. I got a Minnesota Wild one. Obviously, grew up a huge Minnesota sports fan. I will wear that with a lot of pride, that purple pride, to Graham's on Christmas Eve. Very excited for that.
So you go out on Christmas Eve?
Yeah, I go to my grandma's. I do want to highlight another apparel that I think is really coming back and making a strong case. I might get this for you for Christmas. I might get you a nice turtleneck. Turtlenecks are back. Turtlenecks with the chain out, like a little gold chain out, like a little The Rock look.
Or
Turtlenecks are back.
Italian mafia.
Turtlenecks are back. Turtlenecks are back.
I think that's I think if you go gold chain around a turtleneck, I think you just have to be Italian.
Let me show you this. I want to show you this real quick. Let's see if I can do this in less than 30 seconds. But The Rock has a really good look with the turtleneck.
I know which one it is. The black turtleneck.
The black turtleneck.
Yeah.
With the chain and I think he's wearing a fanny pack.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. But I
Yeah,
do want to put this up here because it's important to get a visual.
I think the look that you're referring to is strictly for the Italians.
The turtleneck look and the gold chain like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not for me. Not much I look good in, but if you can rock it, if you want to wear a fanny pack, and to each his own, brother.
Hour and a half. Is this our longest show yet?
It is.
God bless whoever's still listening to us.
We can shoot for more tomorrow. But I think this is the point, man. We have no restrictions. There's no commercial breaks. We can just hang out, do our thing. And if we lost people 45 minutes ago, that's okay. But
or an hour and 26.
So thank you to Maxx Garrett.
Yes.
Awesome conversation.
Fantastic.
We will see what we have coming down the pike next week. We have some thoughts, but when that is locked in, we will try to tweet something out to give everybody a little bit of heads up to who. And our goal, by the way, we do want to do a guest every week. I think that makes the show better. I think having somebody from the organization, we're going to get a lot of the coaches on. I think that's best moving forward. I think it's good for fans to hear from these people. So those, Stephen, are my thoughts. Any from you before we get out of here?
Really good show, fun show, hour and a half show. Loved Max's interview. Love it or leave it. Absolutely ecstatic to have that back. We'll keep implementing that, and we'll have some fun here, Kyle. Beginning of December, we'll snap our fingers. It'll be January 2025, and we'll snap our fingers again, and I will be meeting you in Jupiter for most likely Bruce Sherman's opening comments and press conference.
Yep.
Goes quick, man.
Hey, and by the way, congratulations to you. You battled back during the episode. We saw a green screen.
Oh, my God.
You had to fight through it, but we fought through it, and we got through this thing. And
to your credit, you had actually offered, Stephen, do you want to reset your computer? Because I was having Wi-Fi issues. So, again, Uncle Kyle's all over it, and bad job by me.
Bad job by him, but a great show. Thank you to Maxx Garrett. Thank you to everybody behind the scenes in the creative services department for the Miami Marlins. That's Stephen. I'm Kyle, and we will see you next Thursday.